Hey everybody, happy Thursday. Hope you're doing well. How's that? All right, cool. So we got a couple things today. First, we're going to talk about Project 3, objectizing our stock program, and then we're going to say goodbye to the stock program. Hopefully that was interesting enough, keeping the same project, kind of iterating on it, rather than doing something from scratch every time. Kind of like that idea. Let me know later if you thought that was terrible. It won't benefit you at all, but the next class, maybe, if you've got things you think might be better, then we can go for there. Then we're going to talk about servlets today, getting into the Java side of our backend web development. And then we'll talk about Project 4, and this will be our first and only required project in JSP and servlets. You technically don't even need to use the JSP that we're going to talk about next week, but it will make life a lot easier. And then we've got the midterm coming up the first week in November as well. So I'm actually planning, I think Project 4 will make due this week on 11/11 because there's no need to rush it and get it in before the midterm. And that way we can focus on that. The midterms, open book, open notes, open internet, not open neighbor, not Chegg, right? Chegg is evil. I hope they get sued and go out of business. But use your resources, right? Developers, software engineers, programmers get paid lots of money and no one ever tells them not to look things up. Do it all off the top of your head. So I don't expect you to do that either. I forgot to grab my other laptop, so I gotta get chat here on my phone, make sure I don't miss anything. That's not what I wanted. Not mine. There we go. Okay. All right, cool. So I got chat here on my phone. Should be good with that. Oh, okay. Projector's freaking out. I didn't even touch anything here, and it's freaking out. So today, then, what I'd like to do is I'll give you last semester's midterm for review, and we can look at it and go through that. Oh, still the music on. I forgot. We can go through that, and then next week I'll go over the answers to it. So you've got a chance to kind of practice some of them, and it'll be pretty much, if there's a question in the midterm, like, so it's half quiz style questions, and so about 15 of those, and then 3 long answer style questions. So again, the idea is that you could sit and do it in 4 hours and not feel the time pressure, because I think asking someone to do something correctly is good. Asking them to do it correctly in a limited amount of time is rough, and that usually gets you worse results when there's all sorts of time pressure like that. I didn't touch it. I didn't touch a projector. All right, I'm gonna like slide this over a little bit. Let's see if my mouse doesn't bump that at all. Okay, I was bumping my adapter and that was freaking it out. So it's not, there's nothing. I'm losing my projector in class here. This is insane. Like, it's hooked up to a second monitor at my home office all day long and I never have any issues. Not to blame someone else's hardware, but pretty sure it's not my laptop. Let's try that one more time. Unplug and replug. Nothing. Just a second, folks. Let's try that again. Give it a little wiggle, right? There we go. All right, I wiggled it. It's the ultimate turn it off and on again solution. So there'll be 15 short quiz style questions. Again, the goal is those take you like 2 to 3 minutes each. Right? You don't have to have it memorized, but you can go look up where it is real quick, find the answer it real fast. Like, I'm hoping the quizzes don't take you more than 20, 30 minutes each week. Is sort of the goal with that. If it's taking you longer, my assumption is that you just didn't read the material. So then you have to go and actually like read that entire section to find the answer. But if you've done the reading, 2-3 minutes per question to go find the right place where the answer is, and you should be in good shape. If I'm totally off on that, let me know. So 15 of those, and then 3 questions, 2 on PHP, 1 on JSP Java stuff. So relatively short and sweet. Again, the goal is to not make the time pressure be a factor, right? Ideally, you can finish it in 2 hours. So having double the time hopefully relieves some of that pressure. But open book, open notes, and if that's what we're going to do, then I'm more than open to having you folks just do it from wherever, like you have been, remote, asynchronous, that sort of thing. So I'll open it on 11/4, and as long as you turn it in by class on 11/11, I'm good. We should be in good shape. And honestly, I don't even really care if we get rid of the 4-hour time limit. That used to be a little bit more important when we do it in class in person, but if it's going to be remote anyway, then I think I'll just open it up like the quizzes. You can start it whenever you want, turn it in as long as it's in. So this one I'll ask if you do before class starts, so we can go over the answers in class. The quizzes usually were due by 11:59 p.m. the next week, in case you needed to, like, you forgot you had to do it and I reminded you in class, don't forget to do the quiz, sort of thing. But the midterm, so I'll open at 11:04, it'll be due 11:11 by 6 p.m. Take all the time in the world you need on it. Ideally, you do it in 2 hours or less. You shouldn't need days upon days upon days, but hopefully that'll work out well. And then it's a decent chunk of your score. 15% overall for one test is not small, but hopefully you won't feel a lot of pressure there given the time constraints and everything. So we should be in good shape for that. Again, this will be our last individual project for Project 4. That'll wrap up your project scores, which make up 35% of your grade. And then we come back on 11:11. We'll look at this JSTL stuff, the EL. It's amazing. It adds even more shortcuts, pretty looking things we can do in Java. Pick up the final project. Hey, Hector, thanks so much for donating those bits to the Student Scholarship Fund over at the University of Michigan Dearborn. So, that's awesome. Thanks for your support. What was I scrolling up to? I forget where I was. Oh, the grades here. Yep, and then the final project, right, makes up 40%. So this is huge. This is what we're focused on for the last month of the semester. Is getting together this final kind of a capstone project. We'll have from 11:11 to 12:16. So a month and a couple days to get working on it. And you are welcome to do this in Java or PHP, whichever you prefer. We've spent more time in PHP, but you have had a previous semester in Java, and you'll see a lot of those Java skills will translate well for doing this in, my goodness, if you want to do it in JSP for your final project. So either's perfectly fine. I had a decent mix last semester. I think the first time almost everyone picked PHP, but just depends whatever you're more comfortable with. All right. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns before we jump into Project 3 solution? Do you even want to see the Project 3 solution? Is that interesting for you? I know we went through and we did the person portion of this in our stock program, right? And I made the person class and all the methods for person in the person model. If you think it's interesting, I'm happy to do the rest. If you think it's boring and you just want to get into the new stuff, I can just do the new stuff. Totally up to you. Any way you want to go about it, I'm good with. So. Right, whoever has opinions gets to win. Okay, so Bork, you want to see it go over Project 3. Let's do it. We'll do Project 3 then. All right, so let's pull up the description here. Make sure we get everything. So we were classifying our project here. I didn't get 2 grades. I'm so sorry. I thought I had your Project 2s graded. That is terrible. I really thought I was caught up on those. I'll get your Project 2s graded shortly. Sorry for the delay on that. I had it in my head that it was done. This is terrible. So we're using classes. All the database model functions should accept an instance of the class instead of all the attributes. And the for each loop should use classes, not our database objects. So not a whole lot to the rubric, right? Our stock controller and model, transaction purchase model, and then the transaction controller model use the person and stock classes, right? So to the stock control, transactions purchase control, and the transactions controller. Is that the same thing? Am I going crazy? Oh no, to use the person and stock classes. That's what it is. So transactions itself as objects, and then transactions using person and stock objects in addition to being an object itself. Sort of the idea here. Okay? Yeah, give you all 15 out of 15 and finish grading real quick. Yeah, I mean, so when I ask, did I not ask for the self-assessment? That's essentially you grading yourself. Like when you look at the rubric and give yourself a self-assessment, that's you giving yourself a grade, telling me how well you did on it. That's sort of the goal, is that you can look at it and say, okay, I did this, or partially did this, or totally missed on that. All right, so we're going to go, we did person, person's done, so let's do stock. Stock is the next one here. All right, so we're going to write a class. So we need this class syntax here. What does it not like about person? Does it correspond? Oh, because my file is lowercase. Sure, that's fine. We're going to add a class for stock. Okay, and our class for stock then, right, I'm a big fan of copy paste. We're going to have a bunch of private attributes. We'll have a constructor, a bunch of get set methods. Right, pretty easy here. So stock then had private symbol, and it had a private current price. Is that what we were calling it? Current price? Yeah, current price and a name. private name. Right? So we got our attributes. Now remember, NetBeans does a lot of this stuff for us. Right? If you go to insert code, you can insert all your getters here. Right? Now we got a bunch of get methods, which return our current price sorts of things. And we can add our setters if you want set methods. Insert some code for some setters. Sure. Maybe symbol and name don't need to change. They probably don't. Like once your stock symbol is fixed, you're probably not going to change it and say, oh, I want to change my symbol. I just don't think that happens. Maybe you change your name of the company. Apparently Facebook's doing that. Did that actually come out, or was that still just a rumor?
I think so for the next week or so.
Oh, okay. I heard like as soon as tomorrow, possibly, like was when everyone was like, oh, they're going to change their name tomorrow.
The first time you know.
Oh, okay. Well, we should Google that. Facebook name change. Did I bump the thing? I bumped the thing. This stupid. This is like way too particular here. All right, I'm wiggling it to get the projector going again. Let's try it. Maybe it's my adapter? I don't know. That's upset. Come on, I lost my projector again. All right, yeah, so no official name change yet. Nothing in the works. This is what I get for trying to Google that. I lost the projector. Maybe I should just buy a whole new laptop. That'll fix the problem, right? I mean, I'm due for one, right? Come on. Goodness. I want my projector back. There it goes. All right, I just will not touch it. So name and current price, but probably not the symbol for sets, right? That probably doesn't make sense. And then we need a constructor. So let's insert code. And the constructor should probably just take all three. It'll make life easy. You give me 3 values, I'll take all those values. We'll insert our constructor. Give me all 3 values. We'll take all 3. So the symbol will be fixed, essentially read-only, right? There's no way to change it. There's no setter. Sure, name and price will let change. No big deal. Okay, so now I have my class for stock. And I can make instances of the stock class now for these things. So list stocks, right? We need a way to convert our database rows into objects, kind of like what we did with our person controller or model here, right? We said, okay, I'll take a database row and turn it into an object. Now, somebody was working on it, and this is why it was a couple minutes late, sorry. They copied this whole thing, including the name of the function. If you have 2 functions with the same name, when you do, like, you include this file and you include this file, you require this file, PHP gets upset because it has no idea what to do. So I probably named this one poorly. This probably should have been like to stock object. And then when you copied it over to people or to person and over to stock, it'd be convert to stock object. So you got to make sure if you're just declaring these global functions, right, that they have unique names so that if we can include both models, it's not going to be upset. So I'm going to go rename this one here in person real quick. Don't do it by hand, right? Click on refactor rename. We'll say, let's convert this to person object. It's going to say, oh, okay, hey, I found all these places I should go change it here. All these different converts we should go do. Sure. Let's do the refactor. Okay. Now I can copy this, essentially, back over to stocks, and we'll make a method here then for convert from DB to stock object, given a stock row. Okay. So I need 3 things. I need the symbol, I need the name, and I need the current price. We'll do symbol. We'll do name, and we'll do current price. Right, and given the stock row. And we return that person object that we created. Right, same idea, but now this will make sure it gives me a different name of the function. So when I list stocks now, I'm going to fetch them all, and I'm going to make an array. So I'll have a stock list or something equals an array. And then for, we'll say $stocks as stock. I don't know, stock row? Sure, why not? We need a stock object or something. Oh, we can just say $stock, right? Equals a new stock given the stock row. And then we're going to take our array push. Oh goodness, array push. This is why I'd have to copy paste. Where to go here? Update, clone, add. Nope. Where'd it go? List. Array, okay, array under push. There we go. Array under push. Array underscore push. We're going to push the stock list. Stock list given the stock. Right, and then when we're done, we're going to return our stock list. Why is it upset here? Stocks as, yeah. Oh, for each. For each stock. Right, going through the stocks collection. We should probably close our cursor earlier too. Right, we'll fetch them, we'll close the cursor. Okay, make the array, loop through, create the stock object, and when we're done, we can return the list of stocks. Right, find a stock. Again, we're going to give them a stock object here. So we want the stock object then. So stock object equals a new stock given that stock row of symbol, stock row of name, and the stock row of current price. Right, and we can return our object instead when we do a single lookup. When we add a stock, I don't need symbol, name, and current price. I just need a stock object. So when we're going to prepare, it's my stock object get symbol. Stock object get symbol. Get symbol. My stock object get name. And then that get current price is ugly. I'm going to change that because I think that's ugly. Let's say, well, get current price, like that. It'll be my stock object, get current price. Right, so if I give it an object, I can go and add it in. Right, for update, again, same idea here. We'll do the same. You give me a stock, and I'm going to go update it. So these same things get bound, right? Given that stock object. For deleting, this is given a stock here. We want the stock.get symbol. Stock object get symbol. Right, great. So I think we converted all those then to work with objects in our model. Good so far. And then we need to take a look at our stock controller and make sure we're doing the right thing here. So instead of adding a stock, right, we need to make a stock. We'll make a stock equals a new stock, given the symbol, the name, and the current price. And then we hand add stock, the stock object instead. Right, for update, do the same thing. We'll just make a stock given those values. We'll call update given that stock object. Okay, and then delete. Now this one, same idea here. We need to make the stock object, but we don't actually care about the name and current price, right? All we care about was the symbol here. So for name and current price, we can just give it, oops, like an empty string and a 0 for the price. We don't care what those are because it just needs the symbol out of it to delete. I don't need to go get the current values out. Okay, so those ones look fine. And then in our stock view here, we need to use that object. So list stocks, then it's stock get symbol, right? And stock get name, and stock get current price. Get current price. Okay, so that should work for stocks then, right? That should knock out the first one. Let's give that a try. Let me make sure I've got a PHP and on my SQL server up and running. Take a peek at XAMPP. Oh, Apache, sorry, and MySQL. Just thinking hard about it. There it goes. I'll give it a run. Make sure. Okay, that's right. We got to log in. I don't even remember what I did. Was that test and test? Don't even remember now. Test and test. Log in. Sure. Okay. Manage stocks. Uh-oh. Too few arguments for function stock constructor. So that is stock program models stocks line 9. Stocks line 9. Oh, no. Okay. That was the constructor. We're off too far. List stocks at 20. The stock controller at line 20. Stock controller at line 20. Line 20. Stocks equal list stocks. What? Should be fine. Let's take a look at our stock model. List stocks. Create a new stock, given the stock row. Oh, that's right. You can't call the constructor here, given the stock row. We were going to use this convert function. That's what we did wrong here. So we need to convert from the DB row to the stock object, right? Not the constructor. That was my mistake. Give it a refresh. Okay, class person not found. Huh. From DB to stock object. Stocks line 38. Stocks 38. Oh, that's right. It's not a person. It's a stock. There we go. That's this bad copy paste. Stock object. Return the stock object. There we go. We're getting there, folks. Hey, all right, we're getting close. Now, undefined method get symbol. List stocks. Is it not list symbol? But get symbol. I misspelled symbol, friends. Symbol. Holy cow. All right, refactor, rename. Refactor, rename. Symbol. There. Back all of them. And get symbol. Right there. Okay. Symbol. Wow, that was bad. That was a bad typo. Okay. One more refresh. Hey! All right, now our stock page works. We feeling all right? You can try add, update, delete. Let's update GME. Game stonk. Let's make this $300, right? They're going wild again. Why not? And it updated the price to 300. I guess they're not actually up to 300, but we can pretend, right? We can pretend. Okay, cool. We want to add test 1 2 3. It added test. Let's delete test. Oh, get symbol. What went wrong here? Member function get symbol on string. Model stocks 122. 122. So our stock model. Line 122. Line value stock. Get symbol. All right, so where do we call delete stock? We call delete stock in delete stock. Delete stock given. Oh, I still have the symbol. I was supposed to give it the stock object. There we go. We made the object, but we didn't convert our change here. All right, E44, you need a dad joke? This is boring, isn't it? That's all right. We'll change over to dad jokes for a second here. Let's see. Had one recently here. This was a good one. Where is it? No. This one it? Oh yeah, someone people love to complain online, especially on Facebook, where a bunch of us boomers are, which is funny because I'm not even a boomer. I'm actually a millennial, and I don't know, we get mislabeled all the time. Which I guess part of why it's funny. But they said their posts keep getting removed, and they're getting really pissed off because their fence keeps falling over. All right, let's see. What? All right, let's see. Okay, so we were able to delete now. Cool. So this is good, right? We're testing it, making sure it works. Now transactions. All right, so transactions needs a couple pieces of information. it needs person, symbol, quantity, purchase price, date and time. A bunch of things that happen with transaction here, but that's okay. Right, so we'll add a class here. So our class for transaction has a private person ID, has a private symbol, has a private, what is it, a quantity, private purchase price or something. Is that what we called it? Purchase price? Purchase price. Yeah, purchase price and date and time. Private date and time. Okay. Now let's go add our methods, right? So we need get methods for everything. Now there's actually this really cool, I should have changed this here. We can do use the underscore method instead of the Java style method. Or we can remove underscores from some of these too. But I don't know, I guess we should be remove the underscores and be the similar here. There we go. Get date time. Oh, it didn't remove purchase price. Purchase price. I don't know, whatever. Thought that was going to work, but it did not. Person ID would have done full Java style, but it didn't. Right, and then sets. Again, which of those should change? I don't know, probably none of them need to change, right? We just need a bunch of gets, because like once you have the transaction, you probably don't say, oh no, I actually only bought 10, because like we've already updated your money and taken out money, so you'd have to like go sell to undo essentially. So we'll just add a constructor. We'll take everything in the constructor. Person ID, symbol, quantity, purchase price, date and time. Great, 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 great. Oh, we didn't have an ID though. Didn't we have an ID field? Yeah, I missed the ID field. Yeah, an ID field. So we need an ID. We'll add an ID. So private ID. But then that one is nice to have be like a default of 0, because you don't know what ID is going to be. Right? If you're creating a new one, equals the $ID. So we'll default it to 0. So if we know what the ID is, great, we can give it. If we don't know the ID because we're just adding a brand new one, no problem at all. All right. And then we need a way to do that conversion process again. So we'll go copy that one and do a better copy paste of it here. Oops, our stock model. We'll do a convert for transactions to transaction object given a transaction row. All right, so we make a new transaction, a bunch of these, transaction, given a $transaction. Oh, goodness, I didn't, there we go. Given a transaction, return the transaction. So we need person, symbol, quantity, we have person ID, we have symbol, quantity, we have purchase price, and we have date and time. Row, date and time, and then we also get the ID out, right? So we do know what the ID is here in our transaction row. So if we have the database row, we can get the ID out. Here, return that in the transaction. Okay, so then list transaction. We'll list them all, we'll fetch them all, we'll close our cursor, and then we'll make a transaction list. Transaction list equals an array. Array. There we go. And then for each item in our transactions as transaction row, right, we're going to make a new transaction. Transaction equals new transaction. Oh, no, not even new, right? We're going to call that convert method. Convert given the transaction row. Then we'll array push to the transaction list the transaction. Okay, when we're done, we can return our transaction list. Am I missing something? No, okay, good. So do the conversion. So now that one works. Now when we add a transaction, right, we need a transaction object. So given a stock based on, it's not the symbol anymore, it's the transaction symbol. Transaction get symbol. Symbol, right, using that object right here, we can find our stock. Now it's not stock current price either, it's stock get current price. Right? It's using the stock object we created here to get the price here. And then we're binding off of our transaction, get person ID, our transaction get symbol, our transaction get quantity, and a transaction get purchase price. Get purchase price. We'll bind those values. Again, we're not actually using the date at all when we add them, so it doesn't matter too much. We don't need those dates. Oh, that's right. So the purchase price is what our, not get purchase price. Our purchase price was off the stock. So the stock's purchase price. I guess we can just do this then, right? Stock get purchase price. We can skip that line. Right, we'll take what that current price of the stock is. We'll make that our purchase price. Okay, and then to update a transaction, right? Again, we only need the transaction object. Right, well, here's where I have my breakpoint. Get rid of that breakpoint, and then it's a bunch of gets. Why are breakpoints so screwy here? Enabled. Toggle. It won't even turn off. That's, I don't know why it's so screwy. So our transaction get ID. Do we add a get ID? I don't remember if we did that or not. We need to get ID. Insert code. Code. Getter for ID. Get ID. There we go. All right, now we got to get ID. So we can get the ID out. We can get the person ID out. Transaction get person ID. Transaction get symbol. Transaction get quantity. Transaction get purchase price. Purchase price. And a get date and time. This one get date time. I think it was a lowercase t, right? That sounds right. And then to delete a transaction, again, given a transaction, all we need is the get ID. So our $transaction get ID. Okay, so we updated those. Now we need to go update our controller for transaction. So people, so the list person, sure, list transactions. List transactions. Let's take a look at that. Transactions model for list transactions. Given a person ID. So we could give them a person object, I guess. That would probably be better here, right? Doing a person object. Doing a person object. And we can say if it equals null, right? Get them all. Otherwise, person get ID. Person get ID. We could do that. Okay, so then we need to make a person object there in our controller. So then a person object. I guess, okay, so here we'd have to check then. That's a bummer. That's okay. If person ID equals 0, right? If we didn't get one back, then person is null. Otherwise, person equals a new person, right? And then person, what do we need for our constructor? We needed first name, last name, balance, ID. So all we really care about is ID then, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, we give it the ID. So first name doesn't matter, last name doesn't matter, balance doesn't matter. The person ID does matter though. Being given the person object for list transactions. All right, so to add a transaction then, still all of this validation was fine. Stock is a stock, so it's not stock current price, it's stock.get current price, right? Get current price, right? Using that object Find person gives me a person object, so it's person get balance. Get balance. Find person. Does find person take an ID? List person, find person by username, find person given an ID. Okay, sure. So this one takes an ID, sure, just given an ID, so we don't need to change that one. Find a stock, we got the stock, and get the price, we got a purchase price, we got the balance, we're good. Add money. Is that what we did with add money in person? So I guess do we still have that add money method? We don't have an add money method, do we? Which is okay. So instead of calling add money, we're going to take our person object, right? Because we did a find person, we got a person object back out. So if they had more than their balance, right, then we're able to do that. So we want to take our person object. Do we have a set? We have an add money. There we go. We'll call the add money method in person, and we're going to add the negative purchase price, right, which is taking away money. Takes away money, and then we need to go update person. Right? So we have an update person method given our person object. So update person is going to make sure that it gets updated in the database after we've changed their amount. And then add transaction as a transaction. So we need a transaction as new transaction, and then transaction needs person ID, symbol, quantity, purchase price. So we don't, what was it, the person ID, or those are, yeah, person ID or person.get ID, sure, why not, person get ID, and then I needed a transaction, a symbol, we give it the symbol, and that's our stock. Right, we have the stock, we can do the get symbol already off that. Stock, get symbol. Then we needed the, was it the quantity next? Quantity, and then the purchase price. That was our quantity, and then our purchase price, which should be, I guess we have current price. Here, we can just use current price. Or we could get it off the stock again. Current price. We're going to add our transaction, given a new transaction. Then instead of symbol, person ID and quantity. Okay, and then for update, same idea here. Instead of updating that, we're going to make a new, so transaction is new transaction. And it needed person ID, needed symbol, quantity, purchase price, date and time, and the ID. Right, if we know what the ID is, that's important. Given a transaction. And then for delete transaction, great. Let's make a transaction, new transaction. I'm just going to copy this line here. And for all the other ones, we don't care what it is, aside from the ID. Right, is that new transaction? So we can just give it empties, right, or zeros. I don't think it matters. Empty, 0 for a quantity, 0 for a purchase price, and just empty for the date and time. But ID was important here. It'll delete by the ID. All right, so that's transaction. Let's see if that one works for us now. Refresh, take a look at our transactions. Oh, good. Oh, wait, we didn't update our view. We'll go update our view. So transactions view, then, list transactions here. Instead of using all of these, it's get ID, get person ID, get symbol, get purchase price, get quantity, and get date and time. Get date and time. I think that was all lowercase, right? All right, let's give that a shot. this one here. There, and then we get our back here. So let's see if we can add a transaction, symbol AMC. Let's buy one of them. Or let's see, how much money does Eric have? So I'm 72.94 right now. Should go down if we buy AMC. Uh-oh. That didn't work. For adding a transaction. What did that work before? Did we screw that up? For add transaction? Take a look. So to add a transaction. Add a transaction. Person ID, symbol, quantity. Which all should have been fine. Yeah, we got a different error right away. Symbol, person ID, and quantity. Let's take a look at our transaction view. Person selector, a symbol, and a quantity. Is that not giving me a person ID? Oh, our person selector. That's what it is. Our person selector is ID, not person ID. So in the controller, we need to look for just ID. Here. Because we're using that, so that's shared selector. All right, so one more time, reload that. It's AMC for $1. Update. Oh, too few arguments for function constructor. Let's see. In transactions line 12. Oh, transaction 58. Transactions 58. 58. Nope, transaction controller 58. New transaction. Oh, the date and time. I need a date and time. I can just give it empty for date and time. Right, for adding? Yep. We give it an empty date and time because we don't know what the date and time is. Resend. Hey, there we go. So I bought some AMC just now. And my money should have went down. Yep. 72.38. Is that different than what it was before? Let's buy another AMC. 72.38. 72.10. All right, so the money's going down. So that looks good. We update a... Well, I should say update transaction. Oops. For person, symbol, AMC, quantity, 1, I don't know, purchase price. We'll change the purchase price to $1. Well, we'll put it at $10. Say we got in really fast here. Before the price shot up. For purchase ID 11. Oh, probably the same ID thing. So for update transaction, we want ID, not person ID. Send. Ooh. Foreign key fails. Well, that looks bad. Undefined property get person ID. Transactions 118. Transactions 118. Get person ID parentheses. There we go. Send the form. All right, so we updated it. We bought AMC now. Oh, it didn't actually update. Update 11. Symbol AMC. Quantity 1. Purchase price 10. Same date and time. I changed my... Oh, price isn't even showing up at all. No, purchase price. There it is. It's not updating. Let's see. We're getting closer, folks. Let's see. Purchase price. Given the purchase price. Yep. Given the purchase price. Update transaction. Take a look at our transaction model for update transaction. Get purchase price. Should be. Let's put a breakpoint in. Let's run it in debug mode. See what's happening. To update a transaction. Manage transactions. We'll continue. Oh yeah, I don't need that breakpoint there. We'll continue. Okay, so let's go update 11 for me. Oh, I can't use the same ID twice. That's why. Well, crap. Let's see. So in our transaction model, let's see. Yep, because I already have an ID here, so that person ID was failing. So it does need to be person ID. Person ID. Oh, we're going to have to change that a couple places. And for our person selector, we'll call this person ID. And then in our person controller, instead of looking for ID, we need to look for person ID, right? Person ID here. Person ID here. First name, last name, balance. That's add, that's fine. Transfer person ID. Okay, oh, and I just changed that in my transaction, didn't I? So go back to person ID for update and for add transaction. All right, maybe that'll fix it here, but we probably don't need debug mode then. We're getting close. Manage transactions. Purchase 11 for me. AMC 1, purchase price 10. Changing it to here. Hey, all right, now it changed the purchase price. All right, so we fixed that. I think that fits the bill then, right? So we're using all the other objects, including, right, all of our calls here in transaction then use those other objects. When we find stock, we're getting a stock object, not just using that symbol. So we're using the current price, that sort of thing. So I think that fits the bill. Yeah, 44, 20 minutes to get that person ID issue. Yeah. Transaction, purchase controller, and model and view are updated to work with stock objects. Transaction controller model use the person and stock. Oh, yep. Okay. That's true. Work. I did not ask for that in the rubric. That's my fault for typoing this. I think I copy pasted this and didn't change it all here. So sure. That's all good then. Yeah, that's my mistake, work. Yeah, that's again, the dangers of copy paste. So that's just me being dumb. All right, let me launch GitHub. I'll commit all this. So this is the last iteration of our stock program, and we can get rid of it. Although it's such a fond friend now. We spent half a semester with a stock program, developing it, making it a better and better and better website here. So this is project 3, done. Bunch of changes, right, which is good. Everything working with classes. Again, the whole goal of that, again, is that we don't have to pass around attribute lists anymore, right? Working with classes generally is a more natural way of working with things. And we understand, okay, here's an instance of person. Here's an instance of that transaction. Here's an instance of that stock. So object-oriented programming is, the way we generally like to work with things in the industry, and not having to just have these giant parameter lists and my functions take 7, 8, 9, 10 things, right? And I'm working with more and more complex objects. Makes life easier. And then changing it downstream, like if ever need to go add something, like we added person, we went and added their username and password hash. It wasn't too bad to go and add to the object and kind of fit it in after the fact. So there are lots of benefits from doing it. I know it probably felt really tedious just doing a conversion, but if we build it the first way, like as to use classes and objects everywhere, then life will be easier down the road. That's sort of the goal there. All right, any other questions, thoughts, or concerns? Yeah, so typos will definitely mess up some drop downs for sure, Shadow. Yeah, so if you commit after the fact in GitHub, I'm going to look at it when I go to grade it and say, oh, the time looks funny, and I'll go look at the time before 6 p.m. So you're welcome to keep on working on it if you want to do it just for personal reasons, polish it up. Honestly, it's not the coolest thing in the world, but this is the kind of thing you can put on a resume is like, hey, I did this whole project where you can like buy and sell and manage stocks. It's an actual like complete project that it's a little bit relatable. It's not, hey, I did some silly classroom project that has nothing to do with anything ever. Right? You've got something meaningful, and you can talk about it and talk about the process, and that sort of thing is kind of fun usually. So. All right, we're just now at about 7. I'm getting a little warm up front here. I'm going to go take a break, get some Coke, and then we'll pick it back up with servlets and the midterm review after that. Does that sound good? Music back on. Take a little break here. Come back in 10. That puts us at, what, 7:10 on the dot? All right. Alrighty, everybody. So yeah, throw out those coffee emotes. I had to switch to Coke now. I used to actually bring a coffee pot and I would make coffee in class, but that was, I guess another time when that was the sort of thing we could do. Someday we'll get back to that. So, all right, switching back over to the Java side of the world. Hopefully you had a chance to make sure your little hello world worked and that your Tomcat server started. Right, a couple edits there to our Catalina start. Not the worst thing in the world, but a little tedious to get some of those edits going. But then the cool thing is, once NetBeans knows about it, you don't even have to come and open XAMPP at all. If I just hit start, it's going to go and start the Tomcat server for me behind the scenes, and then XAMPP will be like, oh, hey, Tomcat's up and running. Let's give it a second here. The first time you start, it's a little slow. We'll give it a second. There it goes. And like you can see in your Tomcat logs, hey, it's trying to start now. Hey, it found your JRE. Oh, this we had to set all these things here, all that good stuff. And it goes and starts up, and then XAMPP is like, oh, hey, it's running. So you don't actually need the control panel anymore until we come back to using the database. Once we use the database, again, we've got to go turn that on and off. No big deal. But all of it works just out of the box in NetBeans, which is nice. And we should get our little hello world. So that's as far as we got last week, right? The idea we got this up and running. So we're hitting JSP hello world, and we're not even seeing that that's the index page, right? This is an index.html, but if we right-click and go to our project properties, you'll see all this fun stuff behind the scenes. We see, where is it? Our source here, right? Where'd it go? Run? Yep, so run tells the path of where it's putting it here. So this is the path that it's going to, and then we're automatically hitting, again, that index.html. Index pages are the default pages that you get. If you want to add other pages, right, we can add other static web pages, nothing all that interesting. But tonight we're going to focus on servlets. So servlets was the original way of doing back-end work with Java. JSP is going to be much more familiar to what we've been doing with PHP. It's that sort of, we can write HTML and stick code inside of it. The servlet model is ugly. Really, really ugly, but you can do a lot of amazing things with it because it is fully Java code. And anything you can do in Java, you can have run in your servlet. So you have a lot of power behind the scenes doing anything in Java code that you have existing, any Java libraries, that sort of thing. So we're going to come over to our source packages. We're going to go a new servlet. I'm going to add a new servlet here. And what do we want to call this one? We'll call this the hello world here. And now, you definitely want to put it in a package. We don't recommend putting it in the default package. So we just give it a package name, like hello world or something. Or, I don't know, JSP hello world, just to match JSP hello world. Remember, in Java land, a package is simply a folder. That's all it is. Just avoiding the default usually avoids a lot of headache. We'll give it a folder here. Now, the next page here is important. We definitely want to add this information to the descriptor, this web XML. There's a lot of really cool things behind the scenes that happen with Tomcat. Again, you can take the whole server administration course to learn more about it here. What we're doing is we're saying, hey, if you go to /hello world, I want to map to the hello world servlet here. This is important. So what gets put then in our web XML is the mapping. You used to have to do all this stuff by hand before you had a DE that would do that work for you. But now we'll see in this web pages, there's a web INF, and there's a web XML. That web XML is where we get all the mapping. It says, okay, if you go to /hello world in my program, go find the servlet named hello world. The servlet named hello world, by the way, runs the class JSP hello world.hello world. So when we compile our servlet here, right, the name of the class is, here's the package, right, JSP hello world.class name. So this is like a two-level mapping. So you can map URLs to servlets. Servlets map to class files. This is all done automatically if we check that box. Doing this by hand used to suck. But, it's not the worst in the world. It's just a little bit tedious here. Now what we get in our servlet is a bunch of stuff. It includes all sorts of fun things here. And what happens in this servlet is you get two built-in methods that usually we don't need to edit. Again, we can if we want to. So they're hidden by default. And that means, hey, we're just going to hide them here. We can open them up if you want. One is a do get. if the servlet gets a GET request, it will call the process request method. And then it has a do post. If you send a post request, it will also call the process request method. So what's happening here is we're doing the exact same thing whether or not you get or post. Right? You can make them separate if you want. You can have get handling do one thing and post handling do another thing, or you can make them be the same. The easy way is to make them be the same for now, and we can get back into what that means later. So I'm going to shrink those back up. So what we're doing then in both cases, gets and posts, is we're doing a bunch of things. You get a HTTP servlet request. The request is where you get all of the information, all the parameters that are being passed, right? All the query string stuff. And then the response is literally what the server is sending back. Right? That's the response our Tomcat server is going to send back. And what we do is we say, all right, I want a print writer called, or I'm going to call it out from the response get writer. So we say, hey, server that's about to respond, in your response, give me your writer. And then we literally print line HTML. So all of these print lines here will literally be printed to the output when we send the response. So a query comes in, a request comes in, either get or post, and we say, okay, great, let me go and actually write all this stuff to the output stream. Sorry, I forgot to bring chat back up on my phone here. I'm so used to having another computer, I'm sad. I'm gonna bring chat back up. Right, I didn't miss anything, good. So I'm gonna hit save here and just run it. Now to get to here, right, we said it needed a URL mapping. That URL mapping was hello world. So if I go / hello world, now we hit the servlet. Servlet hello world at /JSP hello world. And nothing super interesting that shows up. This get context path is a built-in function here saying, hey, where do you come from? You're in the /hello world context. Right? This is the container. This is what we said our project exists at /hello world. We've now hit the servlet. And again, we can do anything we want in here if we just spit out raw HTML without print lines. Hopefully you're already imagining this is awful. Out print lining HTML, right? It's a little ugly. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely not as pretty as PHP, where we could actually mix HTML with our code. But anything we want to do in Java land, we can do in here, right? We can have Java, we can write our own methods, right, to do sorts of handling things. We can use Java classes to do other sorts of things. Now it's not very interesting right now because we're not sending it anything. So how about we go to our index page and we add a form, right? And honestly, I don't want to type it from scratch again. I'm just going to go copy paste a form from here. 54. Let me go find a form because I don't like doing any of these from hand. Let's find here. Let's steal a form out of here. All of our views. How about our stock view? Okay, here's a form. Great. Sure. I will come back, and now inside of my to-do then, I'm going to throw a form in here. Now my form I want to send to /hello world. Right? That's the hello world servlet. No, /JSP. That one's not relative. It might send it to the right place, and we'll send a get. And let's send, I don't know, how about just a name for now? We'll just put our name in. We don't need any hidden actions. We'll just say hello. Hello world. I don't think that's going to take us to the right place here. Let me see. Hello world. There we go. All right, so we'll give that a save. We rerun it here. Oh, where'd it go? Where'd it go? I want my form back. Oh, okay. I just had to hit refresh. For some reason, it gave me the old one. So, ASDF. Yep, okay. So I sent it / just hello world? There we go. Okay, so just hello world will send it on to hello world. No slashes. That's right. So we'll send it hello world, send it the name parameter, right, in a GET request. Now, again, we haven't done anything yet, But now we can, if we want to, out here in our Hello World servlet, we can go get that out of the request. So I don't really care about this servlet thing. I'm going to get rid of that. You know, we'll just say hello. We'll say hello. And now we want the request dot get. Here's my get parameter given name. Right, name is the parameter I want to get. Right, we can say hello and we should be able to respond to their name. So we rerun this. Now it's not as easy as save and refresh. You do need to go through that rerun process, but it's generally pretty quick. Behind the scenes, you'll see it's doing this deploy process. Where did that screen go? Where did my page go for that? I don't see my Tomcat view. Windows. Where is it here? Web. Not debugging. Where'd it go? I had that whole Tomcat window. I don't know. You'd see on Tomcat it says like redeploying behind the scenes. I'm just not seeing the window at the moment. But that's okay. Is it? All right, it's upsetting me I can't find it. Where'd it go? Windows. No. You see it in Tomcat here? Servers. View server log. Is that it? Oh, okay. So they're separate tabs. That's funny. Let's see. 1721. It says reloading context. So this reloading context means it's behind the scenes live reloading it. You used to have to stop and start it. Again, that's, sure. So you don't care if it used to suck. It's much easier now. So just give it a rerun here. We'll go Eric for name. Help if I can spell my own name right. And now it gets name, the name parameter. Right, so same idea here. We just go ask it for the parameters out of the request. So the request has all of that information in it all by itself. If you want to do it the slow way, print line, h2, you can say request dot get query string. You can get the entire query string itself if you want, plus h2. Let me run that one. Oh, no, sorry, that wasn't it. Cancel. Cancel. Just hit the run button. Project run button. Let me get Eric. And the query string is everything that's put in here. And I can put other things in here, right? So I can say and ASDF, more garbage. Right? The query string has everything. So you can get the raw query string if you want to. But again, it's easier. We just say we're going to get one parameter at a time out of it. That make sense so far? All right. Oh, sorry, my phone's not connecting to chat. Let me try that again. I can just bounce back. That looks obnoxious. Yes, it is a little bit obnoxious. So once we get to JSP next week, it'll all feel a whole lot nicer. But we got to look this slow way first to understand how servlets work behind the scenes a little bit. All right, so what I can do then, back in my project, I can add more classes that aren't servlets. So I can go and add a class here, like just a plain Java class, and let's make this one, what do we want this one to be here? Here's my stream manager. There we go. How about we do a class for rectangle? We'll just do something super boring, right? Rectangle. And then the rectangle class, right, has attributes, so we'll have a private double for length, and we'll have a private double for width. And then we're going to add some code, right? Use the NetBeans insert code option here. Add your getters, add your setters. Do whatever you want here. So we have some getters. We'll add some setters. So you can change your rectangle. So code. Nope, not a logger. Sorry, a setter. Setter here for these. And then again, because this is full Java code and everything, we can do our sanity checks, right? If length is greater than 0, take the length, right? Sure, this is fine. I'll take your length. Otherwise, length equals 0. right? Don't give them the satisfaction of putting your object in an invalid state. We'll talk a little bit more about it next week when we do that object-oriented programming review. But again, the goal of objects, right, is to ensure the integrity of themselves. Your object needs to make sure you can't put it in a bad state. Width equals 0. So if you try and give it an invalid length or width, we're just going to say, oh, no, we'll just stop at 0. That's all fine. Why is that upset? Oh, sorry, this dot length. Goodness. Thank you for those warnings. That means this width is 0, this length is 0. Okay, we got gets and we got sets, and we might as well add a constructor then, right? So insert some code, insert a constructor for length and width. Now, sadly, the insert code is not smart enough here. You actually want to, instead of do this assignment, right, we already have a sanity check, we would just want to call set length, right, given the length. We want to call set width, given the width. That way we're doing that sanity checking both times. Right, so now we have a nice little object we can play with. Cool. So my hello world servlet, well, let's go change this. Let's add a length and width parameter, length and width, length and width. Given a width parameter, and we'll call this make me a rectangle. Sure, why not? Okay, so I can get those parameters out. So really, we don't need most of this, right? We'll take out all of that for now. But in the body here, then what do we want? We want to make a rectangle. Rectangle, we'll call it rectangle equals new rectangle. And we need to give it a length and width. So we need integer.parseInt or double.parseDouble, right? Double given the request.getParameter. Get parameter, where'd it go? For length, right? And then a request get parameter, double.parseDouble for width. Bunch of parentheses later. Goodness. Pound string and double. Double.parseDouble. Oh, there we go. Missed a parenthesis. There we go. Now that looks happier. We can make a rectangle, and then we can output things about the rectangle. Well, the rectangle class doesn't do a whole lot yet, but we can add some functions here. Right? We can add a public double get area. It returns length times width. Sure, that's super interesting. And a public double perimeter, or get perimeter, sorry, get perimeter, which returns 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Right? Super interesting class with rectangles, but why not? We'll make a rectangle, and then we can outprint line a bunch of things about it. So out.println, probably in an H2 or something, your rectangle area is, and then we can add in here my rectangle. Rectangle. Oh, it would help if I spelled rectangle. So I did rectangle. Rectangle.getArea and plus, and has a perimeter of plus a rectangle dot get perimeter. So we can interact with our classes here, and then end that in the end of an H2. All right, so we got to bump that down a little bit. That's okay. So we fit on one page. So we'll print line facts about the rectangle. We make an instance of the class, and we can use that class inside of the rest of our servlet code. It's pretty cool. Give it a little run. Right, length and width, so 10 and 20. Sure, make me a rectangle. Area of 200, perimeter of 60. You look amazed. I know, I'm sorry. It's basics. It's basics. We're getting there. Okay, all right, cool. Nothing in chat. I think my phone connected to chat, but I'm not actually sure if it did or not. I got enough battery, so that's good. Wow. All right, so we got servlets. So this is a basic servlet. Again, we're doing the same request whether or not we post or get. If you want to do separate, you can. Right? What we used to do in PHP is we would have to get the parameters out of the get or post, and that was really the only way we knew if we were getting posted or getted for what we've looked at so far. Right? There's other ways, but it's nice if you want to split those up. A lot of times what you'll do behind the scenes with this sort of JSP stuff is web APIs. We have a whole other class for that, web systems and integration. So where instead of actually spitting out HTML stuff, you are communicating with another program, and like you just forget the HTML stuff. They'll send requests out to your website, and you do stuff with it, and you send them back a response. Usually it's in some sort of like JSON response or XML response. Got lots of cool things to do with that. There's a really common one here. It's FHIR. So FHIR is the new standard here for healthcare communication. And there are all sorts of cool applications that will communicate using this FHIR specification. So you send requests to their server, and they send you stuff back, all related to like health data things. And it's got some standard formats and whatnot. So this is a really cool thing you can do. You can build all sorts of applications out that communicate and get health data and do fun things with it. And this is supported by most of the big electronic medical record vendors out there. All sorts of industries have similar things to this, I suppose, but thankfully we're maybe slightly more standard here with healthcare, so that everyone can talk to each other and you can get all your records out. So all sorts of fun stuff with that. But again, that's the more of the web systems integration class, not just our web backend development stuff. So we're not going to do any of that stuff. We're going to focus on spitting out the HTML. But again, just know like it's not only spitting out HTML. You can do other cool things with classes and serialize your classes and send objects around and all sorts of really cool stuff. We just don't have time to get into that, unfortunately. So we'll be focused on sort of what we do with PHP. We can build out forms. We can build database-backed applications. So we'll get to our databases eventually. Right? So we got tonight working more with servlets. There's not too much more to the servlets actually, which is nice for the intro to servlets that we need to cover. And then next week we'll look at the pretty way, which is JSP, which is essentially our PHP pages. Just PHP. Don't use the word pages twice. So a JSP will be HTML with embedded Java, like PHP was HTML with embedded code. You can say, hey, here's a code block, and start writing code inside of it. That's the same idea with JSP. And then a little bit more time with this object-oriented stuff. The idea of using classes is fantastic here. Then we'll do our midterm. The EL and JSTL are more shortcuts for how to easily do things in JSP. A little shorthand notation, so our code blocks are not quite as large. The fine folks at Java realize that people would like to type less. All the good developers are lazy, so they give us some shortcuts. And then we'll get into databases, how we do databases on the Java side of things. It's actually not too bad at all. Very similar to what we do in the PHP side of the house. Just a little bit of, hey, here's how we set it up in Java. Got Thanksgiving break, sessions and cookies in Java so that we can do logins and things like that. And then our little notes based on DOM, Ajax, and Frameworks. Most of the time we'll spend on Ajax. We'll look at how we can do some images back and forth with PHP and JSP. So we can store images in the database and retrieve images, that sort of thing, because they're a lot of fun. The frameworks, again, we try not to teach a specific framework, because if you know the like how things actually work, then the framework will just be like magic on top of that. If the only thing you know is the framework and it doesn't work exactly as you want it to, you're dead in the water. So you kind of have to know how things work behind the scenes first. And then on 12/16, I shut up for once, and you folks get a chance to talk. You'll show your final projects. Again, ideally we're working in pairs, but I get we're still kind of in the middle of a global pandemic, so if you'd prefer to be individual, it's perfectly fine. You'll do the exact same project, because honestly, if you pair up, there's a little bit more work involved in that coordination, collaboration, and meeting, and chatting, and figuring out making your stuff work together, that sort of thing. So I think the amount of work ends up being about the same, whether or not you paired up or you've done individually. We can go from there. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. It's we're not going to do a ton with servlets. It's relatively basic here, but we can talk about the next project, and then we can do the midterm review, if you folks are good with that. Sound okay? Yeah, cool. All right. So you can also embed forms, like you can print out your own forms too with print lines. You don't have to necessarily have this index HTML page with the form. It's just it's a little easier to put this in than a bunch of print lines here. So if we wanted to like put that form and have it send it to itself, right? We can also put that in here. Where's our code? So we can out print line that. Thankfully, the copy paste works relatively well. If you just copy some HTML in, it like automatically escaped everything for me and added in the new lines for me. NetBeans is decent at this sort of thing, but still, like, this is just ugly looking. So 1 and 2, we make a rectangle. Great, and now we have a form for like 4 and 5. And again, it's just sending it back to itself at hello world here, right? And we can change any of these if we want, right? Sure, that sort of thing. So it's fine to do forms in here if you want. That's not the end of the world, but if you want to write it in HTML first and then copy paste it in, it'll be easier than trying to escape everything yourself. Just having to escape all these values is really annoying. Yeah, cool. All right, you want to talk about the next project first, or the midterm review? All right, next project. Okay, so using a JSP or servlet or JSP, if you want to use some of the things we'll talk about next week, but it's perfectly doable in a servlet. We're going to build a little tool here. So let me make a new assignment here. Project 4, our servlet JSP. So again, 3 weeks from tonight, because that way, if you want to wait till after the midterm, that's fine. If you want to get it done before the midterm, that's cool. Totally up to you. But both the project and the midterm are due 6 p.m. So we got some time to figure out which one you want to do first. Take care of those, get those out of the way. We'll be in good shape. This will be 15 points. So previously the projects were increasing in points, but we're not going to increase the points in this one because we just haven't done a whole lot of Java servlets at all. You can use some of the JSP stuff, but all the really cool fancy things we haven't gotten to yet. We add a new project, pick that in our project category, and this will be the last project. And I'll get 2 and 3 scored for you shortly. We go from there. So using, you need the GitHub Classroom link. That's right. Let me make a new link for you here. Sorry. Uh, 2454. Here we go. CIS 2454. Fall 2021. Project 4. Java template. Feedback pull request. There we go. All right, here's the link. Awesome. Please submit feedback, pull request URL, and a self-assessment using the rubric. A servlet, Tomcat, I guess, or JSP optional. Oops, in Tomcat. Here we go. So we are going to write a recipe helper, I don't know, website form with a drop down for a multiplier. So the idea, like, if you get a recipe for something and you want to make a double batch, we're going to double all the ingredients. If you want to make a triple batch, we'll triple all the ingredients. If you want to make a half batch, we'll have all the ingredients. Okay, so with the drop down for the multiplier and display so we're going to have a hard-coded recipe here using a recipe class, and an ingredient class. So a recipe is a description, like do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and a list of ingredients. If you want to use an array, that's fine. If you want to use an array list, that's fine. Hopefully you covered both of those in 1500. Right? Okay. So the recipe class and the ingredient class store the information. Store / get the information. So you can just have you'll make the recipe class, you make the ingredient class. The recipe has the steps and then the list of ingredients. You can make a new recipe instance and just hard code it. right? That can always be the exact same recipe. Whatever your favorite recipe is, right? Chocolate chip cookies, go for it. Apple pie, go for it. I don't care what it is, right? If you want to make a s'mores recipe, sure, that's fine. Some recipe is hard-coded, so you have an instance of the recipe class, and then based on what the multiplier is, when you look at the ingredients, right, we're going to need to change the ingredients. So the ingredient class needs the name of ingredient, a quantity of ingredient, and the measure of the ingredient. Right, so if you have chocolate chips, your quantity is 1, the measure is cup. Right, so I don't want to store a quantity, the string 1 cup. Quantity needs to be a numeric value, probably a double, right? And the measure then is that string, is it a cup, is it a teaspoon, is it a tablespoon, is it a gallon, is it a liter, right? Is it a pint? Whatever you want here. So that way when we go through our recipe and we get all the ingredients, I can change the quantity by my multiplier. So I'm getting the multiplier from the form, right? And then for every ingredient in that recipe, I'm doubling, tripling, quadrupling, halving, quartering, whatever we want here, right? Multiplier, so let's have options for 1/4, 1/2, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So we can go up to quadruple here. Bigger than that, we don't even need to worry about. I mean, technically it could be a text field, but let's make a drop down, like one of those option lists, because that's a little prettier here. Okay, so we want to start our page then, right? So this form should be, for the drop down, this should be on the same page as the recipe, right? So like at the top, we're saying, hey, this is what our multiplier is, and then here's the recipe at that multiplier. So the directions don't change, right? I mean, I guess if your directions like include, say, pour the mix, your cake into a 9x13 pan, and you've like quadrupled it, hopefully they know not to pour 4 times that recipe in a single pan, but that's nothing we need to worry about. So that string for here's the directions, here's the steps, nothing has to change at all. It's just a string attribute of the recipe class. The recipe class has string directions and a array list of ingredients. The ingredient class has the name, quantity, and measure. Okay? Does that make sense, what we're looking for? Again, so the idea then is if we take this further, we could actually store recipes in a database, that sort of thing. You could like search for recipes, find a recipe, and still do this. We're forgetting all that extra stuff and just saying hard code in one recipe and just show me you can use this multiplier to go through this object, do all the multiplication stuff, and still output your results. Right, that hard-coded recipe. Does that part make sense? All right, cool. So for our rubric then, so we'll do 15 points. This is project 4. Let's get rid of these things. So it's either complete or missing. No points. Let's do 3 points for each of these here. So we're going to have a recipe class as attributes for description and description, and array list for ingredients. And the ingredient class has attributes for name, measure, or quantity, and measure. Right, again, quantity is the numeric one, measure is just a string, whatever the type of measure. So that way, when like if you 1/4 the recipe, you don't need to go from it being a quart. You don't need to be smart enough to say, oh, a quart should turn down into 1 cup. Just say 1/4 of a quart. Right? We don't need to do anything smart here. Right? This is simple multiplication stuff. We don't need to do any of those conversions. So it's dumb, right? A dumb conversion of it here. And then page includes the option list for multipliers from 1/4 up to 4x, right? 1/4, 1/2, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever you want to do to your recipe here. Let's see, so we got the recipe class, the ingredient class, and then the servlet gets the multiplier from the request and applies it to the ingredients in the recipe. Right? Oh my goodness, I can't spell things. Spelling things is hard. Multiplier, right? And then all directions and ingredients properly multiplied. Or I will just say ingredients are listed. Okay. Cool. That's 15 points. Hopefully an easy 15 points. Again, still sort of we're new to this, but we're going to combine the power of using classes to hook us up down the road for if we want to do this recipe website, have a database full of recipes, this sort of thing. I've been told, yes, the text submission. Thank you so much, E44. 10 bonus points for that. I've been told there's money to be found in a tool that goes out to people's blogs that write recipes and skips all of their entire life story and gets right to the recipe. There's actually like add-ons and funny things you can do on websites for like, forget all your nonsense, just give me the recipe. So again, that's, sure down the road. So text submission, thank you for reminding me. Don't need any attachments. We got that rubric. We should be good to go. All right, so we're going to focus on midterm prep, getting this project done. We're going to talk about JSP next week. Again, we'll make this a little prettier. Nothing wrong with doing it with a servlet though, but again, having to out that print line everything is kind of obnoxious, where if you have a JSP, it can be a little bit nicer looking, where we've got just the HTML, we have the embedded code blocks. So you're welcome to start it now. If you want to wait the week, that's okay, but just know you'll have a little bit less time. So like at least start your recipe class, your ingredient class, get those done, but don't necessarily worry about like the form part and the display part. We can get to that next week when we look at the JSP if you want. Whoever made that is oh yeah, that I think it's like an add-on or something. So like show me the recipe or something. The add-on, I forget what it was, or plugin or something. Recipe filter from your Chrome web store. It has 177 reviews and 4.9 stars. That is amazing. That's a plugin, right? Plugin. That's not too shabby. Yeah, recipe filter. There you go. So, all right, let me go grab last semester's midterm here. That was summer, right? Wow, summer? Man, was that long ago? That was last semester, right? Midterm. We hit preview on this. So I will post a Servlet quiz as well. I got to do that with the Servlet quiz. All right, so this is last semester's here. Again, don't worry. So the first question, right, you get 1 free point for agreeing to the academic integrity policy and acknowledging, yes, you know what it is. If you fail, if you cheat, you fail. Right? Open book, open notes. You can't work with another person on it. That's fine. Everything you turn in is your original work unless you give me a citation. Okay? My goal is to write questions that you can't go Google and answer to, so like you shouldn't be able to cite them for these long answer questions. If you go post the question on Chegg and then say, oh, look, there's an answer online and cite that, you're going to fail. Right? Chegg is completely off limits. They're terrible people. I hate them. Sure. Okay, sorry. Okay, so free point for that. And then quiz style questions. These will look a little different. I used to write my own questions. And then I'm really, I don't know, I've talked myself into using the book test bank questions. It closely aligns with the book. And then they auto grade, so it's not a bunch of other things that people have to wait for me to grade. So sure. So don't worry too much about those. All right, so here's our long answer questions. So 3 long answer questions. One is, assuming there's a table beverage with fields for ID, name, milliliters, container type, write a PHP snippet that displays each beverage in a beverages result in a table. You don't need to write the SQL. Assume you have a thing like list beverages that gave you back a beverages result. Right? Just a quick little, here's the for each loop that spits out a table. Right? In the HTML table result with the table headers and the table rows, just like we've done in our stock project, right? Just here's a beverage, here's the name of the fields, right? Not too bad. Again, I'll go over these next week if you want. Right? Write PHP or Java, so this one's up to you, that accepts a function, accepts an argument for a pizza diameter and number of slices. Your function should calculate the area of a slice of pizza cut into as many slices as requested by the argument. Return the area of a single slice. So the area of a circle is pi times radius squared. So if I give you the pizza diameter, right, that's half, radius is half of that, half the diameter squared, times pi is the area, divided by the number of slices, tells you the area of one slice. Okay? It's amazing the amount of math you can teach kids with pizza. When you look at the size of a small pizza, medium pizza, and a large pizza, and you look at like the size, the area of growth, you get this cool quadratic curve. All right, you guys don't look impressed. My kids weren't impressed either, but I was trying to teach them math with pizza. Cool, so a function, right? PHP or Java, either one. PHP function, Java method, whichever you prefer. Then, specifically a servlet function that gets a number of blanks get parameter, returns a string that looks like, for however many parameters are requested, blank, 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 blank. I think I might have missed a blank here. So if I said number of blanks, if that was the value was 5, you'd get back 5 underscores using a servlet function. Again, using the request get parameter sort of thing to get the parameter called number of blanks and return a string. I designed it to be short, right? The goal was these would take you 15 minutes or less for each of these, and if it takes you double time, then you still have time to finish everything, right, within time. And I'm even taking away that 4-hour time limit because, again, I don't really care. I mean, yes, there are time limits in the real world, but no one says, hey, sit down and do this in 2 hours and don't get up, don't go to the bathroom. You have 2 hours to do this, right? Usually we're a little bit more reasonable with expectations in the industry. Like, as long as you're getting it done in the day or your 2-day or you're getting a couple tasks done in the week, right? You're on track. You're on track. And that's sort of what I'd like to emulate with our exams, right? A little bit more of a real world environment here. That sound okay? So let me grab all this. Do you want the other quiz style questions too? Again, yours will be like the test bank style questions. In fact, they will come from the same test bank, to be honest. So let me do print on this. Print to a PDF. And make sure I get everything. So it's really long because there are all these giant text boxes here. But really you care about these last couple ones, right? Cool. So save that as my desktop. CIS 2454 midterm practice. Okay, and let me come back out to our course then. And I'll throw that out in D2L. Midterm review. Did I already do this? Did we already do? Okay. No, okay. This is still the summer course. Okay, I got you. Back to our course. I was really confused for a minute there. It happens a lot, to be honest. All right, let me publish that. We'll do a midterm review. And let me just go add that file. Okay. Yes, coffee. Coffee, coffee, coffee. So glad you added that command. That's awesome. Excuse me. Right, questions about the midterm? Thoughts, concerns? Does it feel like it'll be okay? Let me put a note in here. So midterm will open 6 p.m. on, that's 11/4, right? So we're still 2 weeks out for that. 11/4, no, yeah, 11/4. And will be due by 6 p.m. on 11/11. It's open book, open notes, open internet, but not open neighbor. There is no time limit. Work on it as you choose. Okay, I think that covers everything. And we got the rest of the night then to, if you want to knock project 4 out, we can start it now. You can do it all in Servlet land, or at least start your recipe and your ingredient classes. That's perfectly fine. And we can go from there. All right, folks online. Hey, Professor Burp, you got anybody to raid? Or you said none of your folks are school friendly? Yeah, bonus points. Take all those bonus points. We got cool bot commands now. Woody, you just started learning Java? That's okay. That's all right. All right, let me see if I've got anybody here. See if anybody is around. Here's our ending. Look at that. Oh, let me commit. I gotta commit all this. So hello world, servlet. Cool. Discord, who's around? Anyone around? See if anyone's online here. Ooh, Burroughs Forge. Yeah, we can go check out Burroughs Forge. That'll be fun. All right, folks. If you're online, take care. I'll be around. Ask me questions on Discord. Send me emails. Text me. We can do some screen shares if we need to. If not, I'll see you next week.